Very good morning, very good afternoon, very good evening, wherever you are. You are used to the retired cops with Mike in Texas and Peter on King Island in Australia. I've been doing the production of it a little bit in the background. We decided to make a little change. That see if we get other people watching and listening in, and we sort of call it now After the Uniform. And After the Uniform also relates to myself, because before I came to Australia, living in the Netherlands, I was in the Navy for 15 years, so I've got a bit of a military background there. And we decided I'm going to moderate a little bit. And yeah, let's start with Mike, Pete, both of you, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Wade, and I look forward to this episode. I always look forward to a change.
Hey, Pete.
G'day, Wade. G'day, Mike. How you doing?
Hey, Peter, I'm doing great, buddy. Good to see you.
Now, my
Likewise.
first question is, do you guys know what actually the exact meaning is of a moderator, where that comes from? I find it an interesting word. I don't know.
Not me. Peter probably does. He's the smart one of us.
Yeah, that could well be. That's now we're talking a little bit about everything. It's like live in the military. You guys have been in policing for a long time. After I came to Australia in 1989, after the Dutch Navy, I became a journalist. We're also going to talk a little bit about more of the situation in the world. We might as well start with that. Now, Mike, you're in America. Trump has started the campaign against Iran and together with Israel, and there's a lot happening in the Middle East. Often, a president in America, his ranking, his likings go up during a conflict because, yeah, our president is taking action. Is it the same with Trump at the moment in America, you think?
You know, for a lot of people it is, but for a lot of other people, no matter what he does, no one's gonna, they're not gonna give him any kind of applause or any kind of a pat on the back. I mean, he could cure cancer, and they'll find a reason, why he should have done something else instead of that. But I think normal people who just, get up and go to work and pay their taxes and come home and take their kids to what are all the after school things. Yeah, I think they do take a sense of pride in America when these little things pop up. I mean, I do. I consider myself normal. I know some people probably don't think that way, but
Hey, coming back to you, coming to you, Pete, is that, and yeah, I'm sure you watched it and read it. Hey, where we had the Iranian soccer team here, the female soccer team. There was one of the matches where they didn't sing along with the national anthem. 5 of them now have decided they have been seeking asylum in Australia, and they will get that. What do you think of all of that? What decision the Australian government made? Because Australia is not an easy country to enter either. And now with the asylum seekers, with the 5 women, they are here. From both ends, you hear that if they stay here, their family will be in danger back in Iran. Whilst if they go back, they could be in danger. But what do you think of the Australian government making that decision?
I think it's a great decision. There's not much, there's not a whole lot of good that I can say about our Prime Minister. I'll make that plain.
Careful now. We stay out of politics a little bit, but yeah.
But I agree that having these Iranian women stay here, I think that's a great thing. They'd be welcome at my home.
Oh, well, you never know. They can help you
nice.
milk the cows. Pete loves milking cows, so they could be a good help, do you think?
Maybe.
Yeah, well, you never know. That what I find interesting also, and that to both of you, and let me start with you, Pete, is that everywhere around the world, even here on our little island here in Tasmania, on King Island, straight away fuel prices went up with 10 to 20 cents.
Oh.
Now, I would think that the fuel they're selling now comes from oil that was already here, or at least had already left the Middle East before the war, or let's call it whatever you call it, has started. So do you think that people, there's somebody there price gouging.
Well, is that correct? It's already gone up here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, on the island now, we're paying 15 cents more for a liter of unleaded compared with 10 days, 14 days ago.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that because we buy bulk fuel on our homestead. We get about 1,000 litres at a time.
See, there's always somebody bigger, Mike, no matter what. But what do you think of that whole idea that there is a war going on, or whatever you call it, action, and straight away it looks like somebody is price gouging?
Well, I'm what would you say? I'm shocked but not surprised.
Yeah. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all, and I'm not shocked because this happens literally every time. It's that economic thing where supply and demand. We already have the supply, but I think, for example, here in Texas, if we get if they tell us the forecast is going to be snowing for the weekend, everybody goes to the grocery store and they just empty out the grocery store. It's like Armageddon has came in, and y'all might experience something on that magnitude too. I think these guys that do, I think it's called futures. I believe is the term. They kind of they look out there and say, okay, because of this conflict, oil's going to go up to a certain amount, or we're not going to get oil at all. So the supply is going to come down, yet the demand's going to go up. I don't understand all that. I mean, I was a cop, I barely understood how to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time, but I think it's got something to do with that. And I don't agree with it. I'm like you. Let's pay the same price for what we already got here, and then the new stuff coming in, yeah, then elevate it up there. But
Yeah. Is it similar to almost like a couple of years ago when we had COVID, and I don't know what happened? Did anybody ever say that when you get COVID that you have to go to the toilet a lot more because everybody was buying all the toilet paper?
yeah, yeah, I totally, yeah, I know, boy. They had a run on bidets up here in America. you know,
Yeah, going to policing a little bit, thing that came up that I noticed. Now I know, Pete, that you never really worked with the body cam, did you?
No.
In your days?
No.
Well, as you know, police is now everybody is walking around with a body cam. At the same time, the public, and I'm sure the same in America and Europe, wherever you go, they're all filming.
Mm.
Everybody is filming. Do you think, and start with you, Pete, do you think that makes policing harder? Because you really have to watch, well, you always have to work within the law, but you can have times that you have to do a certain thing and somebody films and you could end up in court.
I think probably it makes it in some ways a lot better to have everything recorded, because of all the complaints I had made against me, and there was quite a number of them, they all would have been instantly or quickly dismissed if I had body cam.
Yeah, okay, understand the body cam, but then what about that the public is filming everything and from every angle and
I wouldn't, because I'm a great believer in freedom, I wouldn't have any problem people recording me. Do whatever you want. Don't record my voice. You need my permission to record my voice.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's under the Listening Devices Act. You can't record someone's voice without their permission or a warrant from a Supreme Court judge.
Okay. What about America, Mike?
Yeah, no, I was a firm believer in body cams. Like as Peter knows, that it could get you in trouble, obviously, but if you're a good cop to begin with, it could exonerate you. You could stop false accusations against you simply because somebody didn't like the way you arrested them. Maybe or talk to them. And if you had that documented to where, okay, let's let somebody else sort this out, and this is how everything went down. And I think I never had violator contacts that I did not make sure my body cam was running. I'm going to conduct myself in a professional manner at all times, but I don't want to have to try to go and tell people that when I have a way of proving that and making it easy. And also our body cams, relay to the person that we're filming, you can see it blinking. So they know they're being videotaped, and they know that our interaction is being videotaped, yet they'll lose their mind and still accuse you of something.
But you
The
never,
other part,
sorry, you never worry then about if the public starts filming. And in today's world, with all the technology and everything, I could film a situation, being part of the public, film a situation, and I can edit in a way that could make you look bad.
yeah, you could. Uh, so I'm like what Peter said. He's a believer in freedoms, right? So with us, you can record our voice here in America, because if you're in a public place, you have no expectations of privacy, if that makes sense to y'all. So whatever I say on the sidewalk is public property. I shouldn't expect privacy there. Anybody walking by can hear my voice. So I've never had any issues with people filming me. On the backside of that, it also makes me be more vigilant on how I treat the public. That I don't let my temper maybe get into a way of dealing with somebody, because it keeps me honest. It, you know, uh, but I never had an issue with it. I was always gonna do the right thing no matter what. You
Well, I'll
know.
give you another example is that, and this happened in the Netherlands, my old home country, where a police officer was in the middle of arresting two Muslim women, and nothing against Muslims or whatever, but they were Muslim women, all dressed up and whatever. And he grabbed one and he said, "You're under arrest." Then the other one started screaming and attacking him. And as he was holding the first one, he kicked away the other one. He didn't kick her hard, but that move of kicking with his leg to get her out of the way. You should have seen what happened in the public arena and on television. And fortunately enough, his sergeant sort of protected him and said, "Well, this is the right way that he did it." But you should have seen, and that's what I mean, that sometimes, yeah, it can really work against you.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would have just the scenario that you had explained. I would have handled it the same way, regardless if somebody was filming me or not.
Yeah.
You know, I've said on this podcast before, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So I'm going home at night. I might not have a job the next day, but
You guys might have ever talked about it. Pete, what can you think of one of the most scariest moments you ever had in your policing career?
Mm-hmm. What describe it?
Yeah, what was one that you thought, holy crack, I'm glad
When I thought I was going to get stabbed, and am I going? And if he comes at me with that knife, I'm going to shoot him dead. I'm going to just keep shooting until he's on the ground. That was pretty scary.
Where's the borderline of the decision making? How close does he has to come?
Well, I wouldn't put it in distance. Obviously, if it was 100 metres away, it's a bit different. But if this fellow broke his stride, he was about probably 10 metres away from me. If he broke his stride and ran at me with these two knives he had, he was just going to get fully caliber bullets ploughed into his chest. There was no doubt about that. But so that, it was just sort of scary, and that was then, I was thinking there's going to be 100 witnesses up and down this street for coroner's court. And I had that I can split my mind into two, and it was the very, very logical part was saying, Peter, do everything right.
Well, and is it also a little bit that you sometimes wonder that, say, you get a call out for a domestic violence or whatever, and it's in the middle of the night, is it then when you knock on a door that you sort of on edge, sharp, or what is going to be behind the door sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, one of my friends who I used to go and visit, and I just did this instinctively. I wasn't doing it on purpose. And he said, I notice every time you come to my house and you knock on the door, you don't stand in front of the door. And I probably still do that to this day. If I knock on a door, I stand away from the door. So that when the door opens, I'm not standing right in front of it. Yeah, I'm not making myself
through the door.
Sorry?
Or if they shoot through the door.
Yeah.
I mean, so you stand. We do the same thing.
Have you been in situations like that, Mike?
Oh yeah. Again, I think we've discussed it. If not, but if you go down a hallway, we call it a fatal funnel. And Peter and I think we've talked about
Yeah,
this
we have.
before.
Yeah.
Uh, you have this door, but you have no cover. You got to do police shit. And so you knock on the door, but you're trying to make yourself as thin, and we call it blading your body, to try
Mm,
just to make,
yeah.
because I think I've told y'all that I had a call. Well, our whole police department had a call where a guy was shooting inside his house, and they thought he might be trying to shoot somebody. And he had this hallway, the entryway to his door was probably about 10 feet. I don't know if y'all do feet, probably not. Maybe 3 meters, right? Is that about right?
Yeah, that's
About
about
three
it.
Yeah,
meters.
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty close.
Okay. And so somebody had to knock on that door, and if he would have shot through that door, you already know he's got a weapon and he's already shooting. If he'd
Mm,
have shot through that door, I mean, he had a pretty good chance of hitting whoever's knocking on the door. But you still, like I said, you got to do police stuff, and you cannot not
yeah.
go up there and make contact.
Uh,
Luckily,
uh,
knocked on the door and he answered the door, and he shot up inside his house, but he didn't shoot through the door. So yeah, I mean, there's times that I've just said this before. Everybody wants to be a cop till there's time to do real cop stuff. You know,
yeah.
But
and you
then
got to do it, right, Peter?
the
Hmm.
risk also, of course, that in America, I think, yeah, the number of people that have a gun at home is, of course, a lot higher than here in Australia, Pete.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, well, it would be like, but in rural areas where I worked exclusively, there was a lot of guns.
Yeah,
Like every farmer's got a gun.
yeah, I can understand it. Do
well,
you think?
you
Sorry, Mike.
hey Wade, yeah, you were talking about the knife thing with Peter, and the distance. If he gets within 10 meters of you with that knife, and you don't already have your weapon drawn,
Mm,
he's got the jump on you.
mm,
Yeah,
People don't realize how fast a person with a knife, how fast he can close that distance.
yeah.
He can close it faster than, I mean, we're not Clint Eastwood, but it's been proven. If you see some of the training videos, how fast a person with a knife can close that, for us, 20, 25 feet, maybe. Um, you're a dead man. So you already have to have that decision made up that you're going to take the slack out of that trigger.
Part of our
And
training, Mike, was to if that was going to happen, we'd put our left hand, say you're right-handed, put your left hand on your gun belt, on the buckle of your gun belt, take the pistol out of the holster and start shooting as soon as get the pistol parallel to the ground, and then use that they call it the parabolic arc. Go up like that, and,
yeah,
and engage the suspect as soon as the pistol's out of the holster. Start shooting, and then you bring
yeah.
it up, and then engage your other hand there. Did you do that?
We didn't. You mean, were we trained to do that? Yeah, on the
Mm,
range we would do that, but I
mm,
was never in a position that you were in where that guy had a knife already pulled out.
mm.
He, the way you described it, he was at that boundary.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and
Uh,
you were at your boundary,
yeah,
and it would only
yeah,
take one more step, and
mm, yeah,
you would have had to do what you had
yeah.
to do. And thank
Yeah, he
God you
made
didn't
a
have to.
couple of false starts at me. Like he moved his torso, but didn't move his legs. And
Hmm.
one of the things I've learned since I've become a homesteader is, especially with a bull, like I got a big bull at my place. And what I've learned from my wife, who's has dealt with animals for a long, long time, most of her life, and you got to make the bull move his legs. And I can move towards that bull and make him move his legs backwards. And so with that bloke, if he moved his feet, that was all over. You
Yeah,
know, he was going to be dead.
Hey,
yeah.
here's a trivia. See if Mike knows that. You talk about move his legs.
Uh,
Australia's coat of arms,
ah,
Mike, has got a emu and a kangaroo in it on both sides. And do you know what is specific about that?
No.
Pete can answer it. Pete.
a kangaroo and an emu can't walk backwards.
Oh, really?
Mm,
And the whole idea was always for Australia, there's no
yeah,
way backwards. We
yeah,
only can go forward.
mm,
Well, yeah, I think that's a good way for any man to live. Is
mm,
so in Texas and in several states here, you don't have a duty to retreat. Even if you're a civilian, even you don't have the duty to retreat. So you can, I won't get into what legal, I'm not going to give legal advice here, but um, you don't have to run away from somebody that's already facing you to kill you.
Mm.
You can handle your business. You don't have to run in order to be exonerated from any type of deadly force.
But
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that then what we call self-defense, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in some states, believe this or not, you have a duty to retreat. If there's a way you can run away from the issue, then even if the person breaks into your house and you had a way to run into another room and you chose not to, they could arrest you and put you in jail and try you for murder, for lack of a better term.
How is that here,
It-
Pete?
I think in Australia, that's what happens here, Mike. You have to, if you have to demonstrate that you didn't have an ability to get out of there. Yeah, so it's pretty. That's not very good.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you can get out, then you should be getting out of the way.
Have
See,
you
and that
guys? Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say that assumes that civilian has had training in the law. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and we take that away. We don't assume that the civilian has training. What we assume is that civilian had a fear for their life,
Mm.
their safety, and they made a split second decision on how
Mm.
to handle that, and regardless of what the penalty may be there. So I think that's where that law came in.
And then they'll
You know,
spend 3 hours cross-examining you in the witness box as to, something that possibly took a split second to make that
yeah,
decision. They'll spend 3 hours in cross-examination.
You
yeah,
mentioned the law, Mike. What I notice when I watch, I find them interesting. When I watch cops videos on YouTube in America, anybody they stop and arrest, they all know the law. Americans are very clever. They all know the
they
law
all know their rights.
and the right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
you can't arrest me. I know my rights. I know.
Hey, another video that I saw a while ago where I thought I should ask you guys was a video where somebody got arrested and that person was pretty fast. He was able to jump into the police officer's car and he took off. Have you guys ever had anything like that, Pete?
Oh,
Somebody
yeah.
jumping in your car and take off?
Yes. That happened to me. Yeah.
You must have felt horrible.
I don't like to talk about it.
What about you, Mike?
No, man. I was just thinking when you asked that question, God, that would be so embarrassing.
It is. But
Not only embarrassing,
but I was
right there.
exonerated. I've had two embarrassing things in my career. One was that, and a prisoner escaping, and both times I thought, well, Peter, that's the end of your career. And both times, inspectors, commissioned officers examined it and they said, mate, what did you do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. Shit happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did you ever
Yeah,
have an
I mean-
embarrassing moment, Mike, in the Army that you called?
Oh, in the Marine Corps?
On the Marine
Oh,
Corps?
yeah. Yeah, I had tons of them. I'd have to narrow that question down, Yeah, and I've had embarrassing things. Don't get me wrong. I have had embarrassing things that I've done, um, I will tell you one. It's a brief one. In the daytime, you got so much equipment on that it's hard to use the restroom. You have to, for us, the best thing to do because of all this equipment is you go back to the station to use the bathroom because you're in a safe area. Because if you use it a civilian bathroom, let's say a gas station, you have to take this equipment off to do what you got to do. Now you're a sitting duck. Because everybody knows who you are. You walked into that bathroom, but at nighttime, you don't have to do all that. You just pull over wherever there's nobody, you can see headlights and things like that. So you can kind of gauge how long you got to do what you got to do. And, but you don't want to lock yourself out of your car when you're doing it. So That's what happened to me.
Oh,
When I closed that door, I was like, oh man,
oh
the
no.
keys in the car,
Oh,
and my radio and my cell phone, everything was in the car. So here I am out in the middle of nowhere, or I wouldn't be doing it anyway. And car's running,
mm.
and I need help somebody to come get me, but I can't even get a hold of anybody to come get me. So
Mm.
yeah.
I have to say, I had it once in the Marines where I got into big trouble because we used to go on what we called expeditions, like in Norway and whatever, cold weather training or whatever. And for the latrine, we used to dig trenches that then run back into a river. And what happened was, like you say, you have to do your thing. And what was fun always that in the morning when you had young recruits that didn't really know about it, we used to have newspapers, bit of fuel, satellite, put it in the trench. So you saw all these people jumping up when they were sitting on top of it to do their thingy. One mistake I made was that one of the lieutenants of the Marines, they were normally using a different area. He was sitting in the same spot. Tell you what, did I get into trouble for that one? But anyway, a little funny things,
Exactly.
little funny things that we do. But that's how it is. Now, one thing that I noticed, I watched a documentary about Navy training and whatever, and how it is today, and I couldn't believe it what I saw. Now, do you both think, even in the police training, do you think that in today's world the training is totally different than, say, 25, 30 years ago, 40 years ago? Pete?
I don't think so. No. There'd be some things that'd be different, but policing is policing. It doesn't. The crooks are crooks, and nothing much changes. The fundamentals don't change, I don't believe.
Yeah. But do you think that there is a little bit more when it comes to psychology and whatever, how to deal with? Has that changed over time, you think? I wonder
Um,
sometimes.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
No.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, we've changed over the years. We've put more emphasis on training, or added, I guess, more emphasis on mental health training, for police officers to recognize, that this person that's might be in a mental health crisis, and you have to treat that different than he's just a normal, you know, criminal, so to speak. Um, you know, we had training one time, but when I went to the academy, I didn't have this training. But 20 years later, we have to do reoccurring training, and I imagine Peter did too. We had to do so many hours every 2 years. But one of them was you had two guys sitting here talking to you just real loud in your ear, while a third person was looking at you and asking, "What's going on with you?" And you couldn't hear them. You had these, you've heard the term voices in your head. To me, when I heard that term, I thought it was just like when you're just daydreaming, and somebody, your own. But this was the way it was explained to us, and given us in training, was to give us this firsthand knowledge of this is really what's happening to these people that hear voices. They're literally hearing voices in their head, but it's an external um, stimulus, and they can't hear you or understand you, and they get agitated. And and here you got this poor dumb young cop not realizing what's going on with this mental health. So to answer your question, yeah, we've really kind of zeroed in and drilled down on mental health and mental health crisis that some of these people may be going through. They may need medical attention instead of you know being put in jail.
Hmm.
So I mean, we're expected to do all of this and get it right every single time, as Peter can tell you. So um, if you make a mistake, like you said, man, you're going to be front page news for sure. You know,
Yeah, Pete?
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess that some of the information that I knew, I don't think I was formally trained in. I just knew from being around. Like my father was a World War II veteran. He served up in New Guinea, and he was certainly damaged by his experiences in the war. So we grew up with a father. My father was a magnificent man, beautiful man, but he was scarred. So we grew up with a father who had, well, they would call it today, they would call it post-traumatic stress injury. So that was a lot of wealth of information that I had, and I just knew that my first wife, she had diabetes, and I knew that she could have hypo, like where I get low, really low blood sugar level, I think it was, and would act like they're intoxicated, and not
Yep.
intoxicated happy, intoxicated cranky. So I knew about that, and that helped a couple of times in my career. Came across people that were just having a hypo, and they were just unwell. They weren't drunk.
There's a little bit also on King Island. You talk about your father and coming out of the war. Here on our little island and all over Australia, we had what they call the soldier settlers scheme,
Mm,
and where people came out of the war. You might not have any farm experience or whatever. You got a block of land, you put a little house on it, and that's what was given to you by the government. And we had plenty of that on this island too. The hard thing was that often that land was too small to run a proper farm. And what happened a lot, there was no support. So a lot of these soldiers came out of the war and ended up, unfortunately, also here as alcoholics. Isn't
yeah.
it?
Mm. Well, in some ways, I'm a bit like that because I was out of the coppers because of post-traumatic stress injury, and I just chose to come to King Island and buy a small farm
Yeah.
and turn myself into a homesteader. So in some ways, I'm akin to that, but in some ways vastly different because I've got tremendous resources at my disposal that they didn't have. And I've heard some pretty horrible stories about, like you just said, they come down here, get a bit of land, become alcoholics.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that word so easily, like it's nothing, homesteader. I know you talked in previous podcasts little bits about it. Now, for those in Europe and America, maybe what would you define in a few lines as a homesteader? It's to me, it sounds like you're always at home. You never go away. You're always at home.
Well, but that part's fairly true.
Okay.
It just means we try and produce as much of our own food as we can, and we try and be holistic. And everything I do, I try and keep to a really, really keep a minimalist life. Hard to say that word. I try and do that. I just every morning when I get up and go milk the cow, I just love it. Yeah, it's very therapeutic.
And after milking the cow for a number of years, he ends up in the kitchen. His skin ends up as your winter coat. Is it going that far or not?
I've got some Highland cowhides that I've tanned,
Yeah.
and I've put some of them on YouTube. Me doing that,
Okay.
and it's a pretty big job. Lots and lots of hours go into tanning a cowhide, I can tell you.
Is there a lot of people on King Island that sort of are homesteading? And I'm almost thinking about if you're homesteading and you got more people homesteading, you could also start up a barter system. Hey, you give a bit of meat to one and they give you eggs or a chook, or is it like not like that really on King Island?
No, in my ignorance, I came down here and thought that most people on King Island would live the way that we live, and the reality is exceedingly few do that. Like I got friends down here that are big time farmers, and they get their meat, they just sell truckloads of cows, but they go effectively to the butcher shop and buy their meat. I don't do that. I produce my own. I guess that's a fantastic thing. I can eat a steak, and we've eaten steak in the last week. The best meat I've ever had in my mouth. Just
Yeah.
beautiful. And it comes right off my farm. That's fantastic.
And do you say then, well, thank you for giving us what you gave us, Emily or Harold? Or
Yeah, they all got
whatever?
names. When we sit down for dinner, I'm not a cook, and I say to Janet, "What's for dinner tonight?" She says, "Oh, we're having steak." Oh, bloody hell, steak again, you know. But I said, "Who are we eating?" "Oh, it's Heidi, you know, or it's, this or that." And we know their names.
A lot of people would say never give your animal when you're going to slaughter it, never give it a name because you become attached. So
Yeah.
you can step away from that then?
Yeah, it's not easy the night before. I don't do the killing. I have a professional come here. He headshots it, drops in the paddock. He's a butcher by trade. But I'm there when it happens, and I don't sleep easy the night before. No, I think it'd be something wrong with you if you did.
I don't know. That's, how many homesteaders in Texas, Mike?
I'm not one, but I think we call them hippies here. But No, no, that there is people that live off the grid, and I have nothing but respect for those guys because, like Peter's saying, just imagine how hard they used to have to work, and Peter does
Mm,
right now to put food on their table. With me and
mm,
you, Wade, we just go down to the grocery store. It's a nice little package, and that's about as much thought I put in. Maybe I should sit around on my table before I eat and just make a prayer to the farmer instead of to the meat that, because if it wasn't for them, this country would come to us. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how we produce enough food for everybody in the world to begin with,
mm,
but
mm,
um,
Well,
just
you know, you look at it in Australia when you talk about the food, and we completely rely here with the size of the country and the size of the population. Oh, excuse me, on the transport world and on the truck drivers.
yeah,
And if you look at it, how badly they are paid, hey Pete, and
mm,
and
mm,
more and more people do not want to drive trucks. Well, I'll tell you what, if that came to a stop, goodbye, and better
mm,
become a
yeah,
homesteader because the shops
mm.
will be empty.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. No,
yeah.
you're absolutely right. I do think things, people complain about how much a dozen eggs cost. Yes, 12 eggs, but no one complains about the farmer getting up at, 2 o'clock in the morning and he's gathering those eggs and he's putting them on some kind of transport. And that truck driver's got to drive, 6 hours away from his family,
Mm,
and then put it in a store, and then a clerk has got to put it on a shelf somewhere. And it's just so much, but yet I mean, it's people like me. I don't complain about the cost of stuff. If I can't afford it, I don't buy it. But I think everybody should give thanks to all those service guys and gals out there who do get up so cotton picking early just to make sure we have bread and things like that. But Peter is doing that for his own family and his own table, and hats off to you, Peter, to do that. So I'm not cut out to do that, man.
uh, yeah, well,
So
I wake up in the morning sometimes, Mike, and I live on as far as King Island goes, a fairly main road, and I hear cars going past and it's still dark, and I think, I really appreciate whatever you're doing because you're doing it to make life better for somebody else,
yeah,
truck drivers and even just cars.
Yeah,
yeah,
but what is interesting too in today's world is like, and I'll give you an example because we got all these logistics centers around the place now where everything comes together and then is distributed.
yeah,
We have situations here where in the country there's big orange farms. Those oranges come from the farm. They then are driven to one of the big cities 300 kilometers down the road to all go to the logistics center. From there, they go to the supermarkets.
Mm.
So, in many occasions, you see the same oranges then going back to that same town to the
Ah,
supermarket. And you
yeah,
think, what sort of
yeah,
logic is that? And I
yeah,
can understand all the distribution that you want to have the big centers from where everything is controlled,
mm,
but there's a lot of wasted time. And what happens, I don't know in America, but in Australia, fruit, for example, is often picked before it's actually ripe and ready to be consumed
mm.
because we still have that track of it has to go to the distribution center, then to the supermarket. Do you have is that similar in America, Mike?
yeah. I mean, we could get produce year round. I mean, you can't grow produce in the winter here in Texas, but
Mm,
yet you can go to the grocery store and get bananas. So they
mm,
have to send that from South America somewhere. So bananas don't last long, right?
mm,
So that these guys have to be smart enough to know that they got to pick these bananas 7 weeks, 8 weeks before they're going to be consumed in Texas.
mm.
And one little glitch in there could throw I mean, then now you got your whole shipment is ruined, and maybe it's phenomenal to me. But I agree with you, Wade. On We have these big distribution centers here in my town. Uh, I mean, just the warehouse is bigger than you know most cities almost, and have 1,000 doors where trucks can back up into them, and they take them off of one truck and go across the hall and put them in another. Yeah,
Mm,
it's amazing. It's amazing to me.
mm.
Uh,
Now we're
if it was
calling
left up to me, everybody'd go hungry. So I'm glad we got people like that.
now we're calling this podcast now after the uniform. Starting with you, Pete. Do you ever miss the uniform?
A what?
Do you miss the
Ah,
uniform?
um, yeah, I do. Yeah, I miss the camaraderie. I miss, yeah, I do. I do miss it to a degree. Yeah.
Yeah, but to a degree, as in, the, is it often on your mind, or
Look,
just when we talk about it? Or
it's very, very common for me. And I know from other friends of mine to dream about being back in the coppers. You have a dream, and they're just as real as what's happening for me now. I'm back in the police for some God knows reason why. I'm back in the coppers, and it's yeah. So I miss the ability to fix problems pretty quickly.
so
Uh,
you're saying wearing a uniform and a gun helps you to solve issues
well,
very quickly?
you can be really you can bring a positive force to bear on a situation, and I love the I'm going to say the power, but I love the ability to fix problems quickly, and I love the fun of it. It was just a lot of fun being a copper. Like you're just investigating crimes, and to think to get paid to put crooks before a court, that was a tremendous privilege, and it was a lot of fun. I loved it.
Yeah. Do you miss it, Mike?
Man, that's a double-edged sword question for me. Uh, I yes and no. Like this morning, I had coffee with 10 police officers, all old police officers. We all served with each other in the last 20 plus years. And we were able to sit down and discuss, our policing. And we all tell stories. Hey, you remember this? Yeah, I remember that. You remember this guy or that car or this incident or whatever. And then we kind of relive it there, just an older version of our previous self. That helps. I don't think Peter has that where he's at because he separated himself from New South Wales to go to King Island. But every Friday, us boys get together for breakfast at this cafe. And then on Thursday, yesterday, I met with some Marines I served with. Four of us met for so we're talking Marine Corps stuff from 40 years ago, and yeah, at those moments, I wish we were back. I could do it again and be young again with those same guys that I served with. And, when we all had hair and we all had testosterone and um, but I know when I look in the mirror that my window is shut, those, those, those days, uh, I, and the other thing, and Peter could probably relate to this is when we're driving and we're as civilians now, like today I went to get oil changed to my car. I'm always picking out things that other drivers are doing wrong. He just rode through that stop sign, or so or he's going too fast. Now I can't do anything about it, but I don't think you ever get out of that always looking, right, Peter?
Yeah, I went. My wife and I went to one of the local clubs last night, and on purpose, when I walked in there, I sat with my back to the door. I
Yeah.
rarely do that. By choice, I would sit facing the door, but it was just the whole time I was there, I was just off. I just felt uncomfortable. And it's a
Yeah.
friendly, safe place. It's a licensed premises, meaning there's alcohol being served. But yeah, I just did that on purpose, and I didn't like it.
Well, going back in time, then, Mike, would take you back 35 years, and I'll give you the option: a Marine Corps uniform or the police uniform. What would
Marine
be your
Corps.
preference?
Marine Corps.
Still the Marine Corps?
Yeah,
If you
for
could go
me.
back? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think some people say being a police officer was a calling; it wasn't a choice. Uh, for me, it was a choice. That Marine Corps was a calling for me, and then the police officer. Once I aged out of the Marine Corps, um, I wanted that camaraderie. I wanted that same kind of mano a mano where you're being challenged every day. Uh, if you're number one or if you're not, it's a competition thing. And but if I had to do it, if I could go back and pick one of those two, it'd be the Marine Corps every day. Yeah.
Now, Pete, have you ever considered joining the military? You became a police officer at a bit of older age, if I can say that. You never thought of...
No, when I was much younger, I think I might have even put in an application to join the Australian Federal Police, but I can't really remember what happened with that when I was much younger. But no, I was just, I just grew up, as I said, because of my father being a returned veteran, and I just grew up in that environment where we just learnt that that evil prevails when good men do nothing, and that was one of the motivating factors for me to join the police.
That's very interesting. Now, gentlemen, we've been talking for 40 minutes. Do we want to extend, or is there anything you can think of? I can step a little bit back. As
there's the one thing I do just want to correct, that when we're talking about recording voices, I didn't mean that, because what Mike said is correct. If you're in public, of course, that is open, and people, what I meant by not recording my voice is to do it in a secretive way.
Yeah,
that if you are in public, then what you're saying is in the public domain, and it's because people can remember, it's very similar to being recorded. I didn't mean to. Well, I said don't record my voice. What I meant by that was in a covert manner. Yeah, that you shouldn't be able to do that.
Well, I remember before body cam, I think it was 91, 92, I got stopped by police outside of a country town, and they had a little handheld recorder with them, and they said, "We're recording you."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, that's okay." I said, "Are people aggressive nowadays that you have to do that?" He said, "Well, it's just, we have to do it." I said, "Okay." But then the funny thing is he got crook with me because he said you were speeding. And it was just in a change of 70 to 90 or the other way around. And he said, "What's your excuse?" And I said, "Which one works?" Because I thought I'm not going to waste his time with coming up with all different excuses. I'll tell you what, I was not popular. I thought, well, maybe he can give me one that might work. And you know the old joke where you speed, where you go too fast and the cop stops you and they say, "What's your excuse?" "Oh, well, last week my wife left me for a police officer. I was worried you were going to bring her back." Yeah, so many little excuses.
Yeah. One of the other issues about recording your voice, I do have some experience because the Highway Patrol, who for Mike's information are New South Wales police officers, it's just the same powers of arrest, they're just a different squad. But anyway, they had permission, they had an exemption built into the Act where they could record people's voices without their permission. They would tell them, but they didn't need the other person's permission to record their voice. Anyway, so one particular night, I was riding shotgun with a highway patrolman because for some reason or other, once it got dark, they needed someone by their side, which was very different to general duties police. But anyway, this particular night, I've got the microphone on my shirt and everything I'm doing, it's been recorded. So I went into this service station during the night to refuel the V8. And I just got used to talking like a robot, you know. And as I'm walking, when I walk into the service station to pay for the fuel, there was about 3 or 4 young men lolling around. I could tell from the way they were dressed that they had been out for the evening, to a pub or whatever, and they didn't find anyone to go home with. And when I was walking back out, one of them said to me, he said, "Hey, big fella," he said, "how about a lift?" And I didn't bother. I didn't even stop walking. I didn't even turn my head. I said, "I think you know the answer to that question." And one of his mates piped up. He said, "I think he just told you to get, you know what." I thought, that's about it. It curbed. I'm not saying I would have used that language, but it curbed the way that I interacted with people. It made it more mechanical. And that's one thing I don't like about that sort of recording. It's good to be professional all the time, but there also needs to be some flexibility there. And one of the things that most people won't know is that, Mike wouldn't probably know this, but in Australia there's an offence of offensive language. Now, with your freedom of speech, that would be an anathema to you. But in Australia, there's an offence called offensive language. You use the F word or the C word. It's got to be designed to be used in an offensive way. That's an offence.
Yeah.
But in Australia, But in Australia, you can, and a police officer is allowed to use the language provided it is seen in the sense of talking in the language of the buyer. You know what I mean?
Uh,
Like if that's how the
yeah,
person understands it, you're allowed to use that language,
So
even though it might be,
you're saying in a way in Australia you can't say funny comedian.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We were. I never did it, but I know that that was allowed. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
well,
It's funny.
okay. So Peter, it's the same way here. So we have freedom of speech, right? Now,
Mm.
the way it's written for Texas is police officers can't be offended,
Mm.
by offensive language.
Oh.
However,
Oh.
if a person was offensive language to a police officer and a third party was
Oh.
offended by that language being
Oh.
used in public, and
Oh.
they wanted to pursue it, then yeah,
Oh. Okay.
it is an offense. Yeah.
One of
So
the elements of the offence was that the person was a reasonable person. That's how it
yes,
says.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
police were considered to be reasonable people.
yeah.
So they could use it towards us, and I
I
could be
guess we
offended
weren't
by it.
considered to be reasonable.
That's right.
But is there also a change, guys, where you listen now to a lot of hip hop and rap music and whatever, and the funny comedian, the Avon words you're talking about, that they're all over the place. So
Mm.
is it also that in general, I think that 40 years ago, if you use the F word in Australia, that was massive.
Mm.
Now it almost seems to be accepted.
Mm.
The
Mm.
funny thing is with language, and then I'll give you an example. In Holland, the C word is KUT, cut,
Mm. Mm.
like we cut cut with a knife.
Mm.
Now, mate, any age group, older women, older blokes, young people, it's a general word.
Mm.
Oh, the weather is cut today. Oh, what a cut, man, or what a cut situation. And it's a standard word. So when
Mm.
I came to Australia and I hear the C word, and I know the C word sounds harsher than the Dutch equivalent, but it was like, oh, better be careful now.
Mm.
But that was normal in those days. But then earlier that word did not exist. Like in the 50s, there were migrants that used to go to the Department of Road Services and everything, and to get their number plates or board a car. And somebody bought a car, and as you know, in New South Wales, it was always 3 letters and 3 numbers. And then people bought a car, and it said KUT 123.
Ah.
And they
Ah.
went back to the department. I want a new number plate because I don't want to have that on my car. So
Uh,
changes in the world.
People get offended by the silliest things,
yeah.
and like I was just saying, as police officers in Texas, we're not allowed to be offended,
Mm.
but it, but I will tell you that it's also it police officers in Texas are considered, and maybe United States in general, were considered to be a profession, so you want you don't want your doctor maybe talking like a sailor. I mean it wouldn't offend me, but it'd offend the general public. uh, I would conduct myself as a physician would, if when I'm talking to somebody, but like Peter said, you might have to elevate yourself up to their level if they're gonna, if what'd you say, you could sell it if they're buying, or
You
I'm not.
sell in the language of the buyer.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So I mean, he's meeting him on his level
yeah.
instead of.
Uh,
I'm not going to let you talk like that and me be this little schoolboy here, because then that's going to set a different tone of how this is going to go down. So yeah, you want to elevate yourself to at least just a little bit higher than that, because as a police officer, you gotta establish the pecking order. You
there was a
know.
pretty famous case in Australia, in Sydney. There was a magistrate that's at a local court, and she was on the record for saying that she didn't find those words to be offensive, and police shouldn't be using that charge. Anyway, one day in her court, right in Sydney, the prosecutor she had already dismissed one of these matters that was before her, and the prosecutor had the job of going out into the foyer and calling in the next person for court, and he went out there and he said, Peter Gillette, and came back in and said to the magistrate, no effing appearance, Your Honour, of Peter Gillette. And she said, in my chambers. Meaning, you're not going to speak to me like that.
That's the best. That's the best story of the night, right there.
Well, gentlemen, before we start using the wrong language, I think we had a great chat for well over 45 minutes now. That I don't know how the crowd is going to look at what we did today. Slightly different after the uniform. I think if people are interested, dare I say, put your questions in the comments, and it's almost like ask us anything. It's military, police, your daily shopping, where's your best supermarket? Or maybe not that sort of question. Better be careful with that. But how's the oil price going to develop? Anyway.
Oh, let me tell you, as a side note, we talked about the oil prices earlier, and I saw today a picture of, on gas stations. I don't know if y'all have this, but at gas stations, they put how much the gallon of gas, and I think y'all do liters, right? And they display that. So as you're driving by, you're like, okay, that's a little bit more than it was a mile behind me or kilometer for you guys behind me. It was for here. I put gas in my pickup yesterday, and it was $3.45 a gallon. I don't know how many gallons, how many liters in a gallon, but it was $3. How many?
Liters. Yeah, about 4 liters. Yeah.
So whatever, 345 divided by 4. Let me do that right quick, so this will make sense to y'all, and our international audience. So 345 is what it cost me yesterday, divided by 4 equals. So it was 86.25, just a little over 86 cents a liter here yesterday, which is high for us.
Mike, just to fill you in, $3.25 US in on this little island.
For a liter. Man, I'd be walking a lot.
No, well, that's a little bit hard on this island because you have to push wallabies out of the way, and it's.
I might be buying a horse.
Yeah, I was just going to say you can use one of your cows to go to town.
Yeah, they got big horns. I can sit in there and ride it, steer it with the horns.
Let's just. I got to do that math now. So you said it's 325.
No, I did it. I did it the wrong way around. It's like 70 cents. Or 71 now. I'd say it's about $1.60 a liter. So it's still double of what you pay. But even compared with the rest of Australia, we pay a fair bit here on this island. And we can also go from pump to pump. We can go from A to B or B to A. That's it. So there's 2 pumps.
Yeah. Not much choice, Mike. Not much choice.
Well, I tell you, what I saw yesterday was a picture of Missouri, and they were $14 and something cents a gallon, which is about 2.5 times what you guys are paying a liter. And that was in the States, all because of this Iran thing. So
but I'm sure you wouldn't want to drive all the way to Missouri, Mike, to fill up.
Hell no, I'm in Texas. I ain't leaving Texas.
I have to say,
yeah. No, I was just going to say our gas is cheap in Texas.
You could kick a hole with your boot and find oil down Texas.
That's what I'm told. Yeah.
No, we have a funny one out here that because during the day the petrol station here is manned, and then at night time they have a machine where you put your card in, and they have a sign now that people are not allowed to take out more than 1 jerry can of fuel. Because there's also lots of people here now that filling up jerry cans to get more fuel. The funny thing is, then you go just after hours and you can bring in 10 jerry cans because they can't check it. So it's like, anyway.
They might be watching on closed circuit TV, Wade.
I doubt that one. Anyway, guys.
They're probably watching our podcast.
I think it's been great talking, guys. It was good fun. And, like I said, people, put the comments in if you want to ask us a question. And for Mike, it's going to be good night. And for Pete, it's going to be good afternoon. Or for me, too, because we're actually, it looks like we're in 2 different places. Pete and I are in the same place. It's just different cameras. I think the light looks better on you than on me, Pete, but that's... Oh, that was that shiny bit that that Mike was seeing in the beginning.
Yeah, look, it
That's
is a
his
halo.
halo.
We all know it's a
That's
halo.
a halo.
I said it first. All right, guys. Well,
Righto.
hey, it's always
See ya.
a pleasure,
Righto.
and I'll see you on the next one.
Righto.
Enjoy your
See ya.
weekend.